Hello, Father Fred Caldwell here again. Today it's a beautiful day here in Melissa, Texas, and it was a beautiful weekend that I had. Went to Memphis, Tennessee to marry a couple there, Parker and Caroline Delaby. They were members of my church down there when I was a pastor in Ennis, Texas. And we had a beautiful time. My daughter went with me. She drove me, and she took care of some of her customers while she was there. She's a works with getting trucks for people that need trucks. That's her job. And we had a beautiful time. We took a trip on the Mississippi River on a boat, and it was a beautiful week that I got to spend with my daughter for 4 days and meet a lot of people that I had there in Ennis as members of the church. Well, today we're going to do video number 8, and it's going to be chapter 4. Now, to begin with, and as we started here in Genesis, we started with chapter 1, and it was by the priest, and it was all just facts. He speaks, and something happens. He puts the sun in the sky, and it's there. Or he says, put the moon, there's the moon. He says, put the stars, there's the stars. He says, let us make man and woman, and bam, they're man and woman in his image. That's the good thing for us. Wasn't the animals that were in his image. It's man and woman that he makes that are in his image. Now, in chapter 1, God just speaks and he makes the animals, the plants, then he makes the animals, then he makes man and woman at the same time. Chapter 3 was a little different. In chapter 3, or in chapter 2, he makes, first of all, Adam, and then he makes the plants, and then he makes the animals, and last of all, he makes Eve. And this Lord, this God, is very close to his people, and he's almost like a person. He walks with them in the evening, he talks with them, and sometimes he doesn't know what's going on, it sounds like. He asks him, where are you? And he uses his senses just like a person would. He smells the sweet aroma of the sacrifices, and he regrets things, and he plants a garden. Can you imagine? He plants the garden. This is a God planting a garden for the man that he's going to make. And then after they fall in chapter 3, he takes them out and makes clothes for them, like a seamstress. He's just a pretty neat God to have around. Well, we've gone through that now. Got them. You might ask, who married Adam and Eve? It doesn't ever say they get married. They just come together, and we're going to be in chapter 4 now. And in chapter 4, we're going to start having children. And things don't always work out well. In your family, things don't always work out well. Well, they didn't work out well all the time in this family either. So this story, it continues the sin of the humans. It's going to be a worse sin. It's going to be worse for a couple of reasons. There's going to be murder in this one, for there wasn't murder in the first one, just some deceit. And also there's a lie here. He says he doesn't know where his brother is. So it started out bad, started out good in chapter 1, got a little bad in chapter 2, gets worse in chapters 3 and 4. So today we're going to be looking at it again and Yahweh as again. If it's the story, you can't have very much for the priest because he just gives facts, and doesn't make a story. So he just gives the facts and he's done. Now we're in the story for him, and it's Yahweh is used, or Yahweh, or Lord, or in some Bibles it might even say Jehovah. But this is going to be a God that is close to them, like he walks with them. This is going to be chapter 4. Let's look at verse 1 now. And it has a title to it. It names the two children, Cain and Abel. Cain means I have produced. Maybe he produced something in his garden. I'm not sure why. he gets this name. And Abel means emptiness. And it might be because Abel is pretty empty. He gets emptied. He's very short time in the Bible, and he's gone because he gets killed. Verse 1 says, the man, that's Adam, the man had intercourse with his wife Eve, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain, saying, I have produced a male child with the help of the Lord. She knows that the Lord's involved in it. And the Lord is this one that's close to her. When you see Lord, it's going to be somebody that's close to you. And it says, I have produced this child named Cain. And she says, I have produced a male child. And that's what Cain means. I have produced. Verse 2. Next, she gave birth to his brother Abel. And Abel became a herder of flocks, and Cain became a tiller of the ground. Now, it's like these people, I think, were nomads. They didn't stay in one place and raise a garden. They traveled around, they roamed around, and they had cattle. So their main motif is going to be not the farmer, but the rancher. Now, Cain is the older, Abel's the younger. We're going to get another younger one later on down the line. And there is a certain theme, a motif in Genesis and in the first part in the scriptures of the younger brother. Now, the older brother is supposed to get the inheritance. He's supposed to get twice as much as the rest of them together. But it winds up. This is a motif. The younger brother comes out ahead of the older brother. Now, this younger brother doesn't, because he's going to get killed. But there's going to be another younger brother come later. So number 2, verse 2 says, next she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now, some people say, how long after Cain was born was Abel born? Because it says, next she gave birth to his brother. It's almost like, and some scholars think, that they were twins. They were twins, and that's another motif where in the twins, where the younger brother gets the birthright. That happens like with Isaac, with Jacob, with Joseph, and with David, as we're all down in the scriptures farther. The younger child comes out getting what the older child was supposed to have. In the course of time, Cain brought an offering to the Lord from the fruit of the ground. Now, why did he bring an offering? Doesn't say. Did God want an offering? But anyway, Cain brings an offering to the Lord, and it's the fruit from the ground. So he's the tiller of the soil, Cain is. While Abel, for his part, brought the fatty portion of the firstlings of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but look at this. But on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry and dejected. Now, why would God be satisfied with Abel's sacrifice or offering, but he would not be satisfied with Cain's? Some people, some scholars, they have different ways of looking at it. One says it just shows the superiority of what the people saw as the higher level of vocation was to take care of cattle, and he offered an animal. Another thing is, another idea that scholars have is this, that Cain, now there's no reason to believe this other than it just seems like it's a possibility. Another reason is that Abel gave the first, the best of what he had, and Cain gave something of lesser quality. So it could be something like that. Another thought that scholars have is that Abel gave his willingly at the first. Cain waited until later, and he was going to give maybe what was left over. Now, those are just theories. But for some reason, God accepted and was glad to get the sacrifice from Abel, but he was not from Cain. and Cain is angry. You can imagine that. So verse 5 says, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor, so Cain was very angry. Verse 6 says, then the Lord said to Cain, why are you so angry? Why are you dejected? Now, you'd expect somebody to be angry and dejected if you offer something to God and then God says to you, no, I'm not happy with yours. I'm happy with the other one, but I'm not happy with yours. And you wonder, well, why am I even giving anything to God if he's not going to be happy with it? So Cain, he's upset. And then in verse 7, God says, if you act rightly, you will be accepted. Accepted, scholars say, means accepted back into good graces. And another synonym for it was you will be lifted up. And lifted up, scholars look at it as dejected is when you're looking down, and happy is when you're looking up. And you will be lifted up. Your face will be lifted up. You won't be dejected, because it just said that he was dejected. He says, if you act rightly. So he's giving him a second chance. He didn't like what he got, but he's going to give him a second chance. That's big of God, isn't it? He's going to let him have a second chance. He offered what he had, so we don't know why. We don't know why God was not satisfied with it. But he tells him, if you act rightly, you will be accepted. You got a second chance now. I'm going to give you another chance. But if not, sin lies in wait at the door. Now in Mesopotamia, there was an evil god that caused sin, and he would be standing right outside your door waiting for you. And when you'd come out, he'd say, aha, I got you. I got you. So this is at the same time as Mesopotamia had their stories also. And this says, but if not, sin lies wait at the door. Its urge is for you, yet you can rule over it. Yeah, that evil person or evil creature that's waiting at your door is going to attack you, but you can overcome it. God gives him another chance and even lets him know you can do this. But he doesn't. Let's look at verse 8. Cain said to his brother Abel, let us go out into the field. When they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Now, there must have been people around. He took him out into a field where nobody else would hear it. Nobody else would know about it. He had it planned. He could have come back and done right, but he didn't. The sin, the creature that was lurching at the door, lurking there, that creature came out and got him, didn't it? It made him, now he's worse. Now this is worse than anything about eating the forbidden fruit. Now he's killed somebody. Verse 9 says, then the Lord asked Cain. Now this is this close God. This is the God that's talking with him. It's not somebody standing back and saying, let the stars be here and let the moon be. He's right there with him. And he said, then the Lord asked Cain, where's your brother? There are times that it makes it look like God doesn't know something. He's got human characteristics. Then the Lord said to Cain, where's your brother Abel? And he answered, here's the first lie. I do not know. He knows. So he has compounded his sin. First of all, it was bad enough that his gift wasn't accepted, but then terrible when he killed him, and now he's added on to it with the lying. So he's got just going downhill and downhill. And then he says, this kind of sounds like a smart aleck, doesn't it? Am I my brother's keeper? You bet. We are our brother's keeper. But that's he's putting it in there in his own, for his own, how good I am. Am I supposed to take care of everybody else? I take care of me, let him take care of himself. But he's already lied. Verse 10 says, then God then said, what have you done? Like he doesn't know. He's got some human characteristics. what have you done? But then he tells him, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Blood is crying, and he can hear this as a person would hear. 11 says, now you are banned from the ground that opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. Now this is something. He's banned from the ground, and he's made out of ground. He's made out of the dust in chapter 2. And not only that, that's how he's going to make his living. How's he going to be? He's a farmer, and if you can't go to the land, you're going to have a pretty tough life. Verse 12 says, if you till the ground, it shall no longer give you its produce. You shall be a constant wanderer on the earth. Now, that's not good, is it? He's not going to have a home. He's just going to wander around, and he's going to try to grow crops, and they're not going to grow right. All of this because of sin that he has brought into the world. 13 says, Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is too great to bear. I can't do that. What are you doing to me? I'm supposed to get my living off the ground, and now I'm bound. Now I have to wander. I can't stay in one place, so I can't have a garden. It takes a while. It takes a time for gardens to grow. Look, he's still talking, Cain is. Look, you have banished me from the ground. I must avoid you and be a constant wanderer on the earth. And here comes something that makes us think. Anyone might kill me at sight. Now, who else is there? He's the first child, unless we think about back there in chapter 1, in verse 27, God says, let us make man and woman in our image. So it looks like chapter 1 would be first. But the thing about it is, the J source, or the source with the closeness of God, it was written first. The P source, or the priest, was written afterwards. So who's out there that's going to kill him? Is somebody else on the earth? Or maybe did Adam and Eve have other children, and the other children are mad with what's happened? Somebody he's afraid is going to kill him. So God does this. Not so, the Lord said to him. Now, when you use the word Lord, you're close. It's a close God to you. Not so, the Lord said to him. If anyone kills Cain, now this is not going to make Cain feel any better, I wouldn't think, but if anyone kills Cain, Cain shall be avenged 7 times. Now, you know what 7 means? 7 means complete. It's a special word. In the book of Revelation, the number 7 appears 54 times, and in a lot of the numbers don't appear once. 7 has a special meaning to it. You remember when God was talking to Noah, he said, take 2 of every animal. But then in chapter 7, he says, take 14, which is a multiple of 7, or some Bibles don't say 14, some say 7. But 7 is a special number. It means it's complete. Here, he says, they will be avenged 7 times. Or in other words, they will have it. They'll wish they had never seen Cain. It's going to be a terrible punishment. So the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one would kill him at sight. Now, if he puts a mark on somebody, and there's somebody out there who wants to kill him, how are they supposed to know what that mark means? See, you don't read this literally. But there was, at this time, whenever somebody in Mesopotamia or in these countries around, whenever they were shut out, they put a tattoo on them. So most scholars say it's a tattoo of some sort that he put on him. Verse 16 says, Cain then left the Lord's presence and settled in the land of Nod. And Nod is similar to a word that's called Nud, N-U-D, and that word means a person that is a wanderer. So sometimes they play on words. And Nod here, a lot of scholars say, is referring to the word Nud, which was supposed to be a place. Now we're going to get a little farther. Now we're going to get grandchildren. This is verse 17, and the title for it is Descendants of Cain and Seth. Now, who's Seth? We haven't had Seth yet, but we're going to get him. That's going to be the younger brother. So verse 17 says, Cain had intercourse with his wife, and she conceived and bore a son named Enoch. Now, Enoch is a book that is in, it's called the Apocrypha, or sometimes it's called the Deuterocanonicals. It's in the Hebrew Bible. If you notice, the Catholic Bible has more books than the Protestant Bible. In the Hebrew Bible, it had to stop with the last prophet. And the last prophet was named Malachi. And so he died around 400, 500 BC. So they have nothing in their Bible for about 400 or 500 years. Now, the early church saw things that were happening that thought they were inspired, so they chose to put those also in the scriptures. So we have those. We have 7 books more in the Catholic Bible than we do in the Protestant Bible. Now, there's another big group of a religious group overseas, not many here, but you've heard of them probably. They're called Orthodox, and they have more books in their Bible than the Catholics do in their Bible. So we're going to have now the descendants of Cain and Seth. And Enoch is going to be a special guy. We're going to learn something good about him. Cain had intercourse with his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. Cain also became the founder of a city which he named after his son, Enoch. Verse 18. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad became the father of Mehujael, and Mehujael became the father of Methuselah, and Methuselah became the father of Lamech. Now, Lamech is going to be somebody here. He's going to be another character. Lamech took two wives. The name of his first wife was Adah, and the name of his second was Selah. Adah gave birth to Jabal, who became the ancestor of those who dwell in tents and livestock. Now, this is telling us about how different people came out to have different jobs. He's going to dwell in tents and keep livestock. His brother's name was Jubal, who became the ancestor of all who play the lyre and the reed pipe. So this is where musicians are supposed to come from Jubal. Verse 22, Zillah, on her part, gave birth to Tubal-Cain, the ancestor of all who forge instruments of bronze and iron. So this looks like where the blacksmiths would come from, or any of the metals, the smiths. The sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Now, verse 23, the descendants of Cain. Now remember, Cain is going to have problems. His children are going to have problems. Cain has a descendant named Lamech. Lamech is this. Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice. Wives of Lamech, listen to my utterance. It's kind of a little poetic here. I have killed a man for wounding me. That's not good. A young man for bruising me. So he's killed more than one. If Cain is avenged, listen to this number, 7 times. If he is avenged 7 times, I will be avenged 70 times 7. And there's the sevens again. It's just multiples of 7, which means complete. He's going to be. So Cain did bad, and it didn't stop there. Lamech is going to do worse. And if he gets caught, he's going to get 70 times the punishment that his father got. Verse 25 says, Adam again had intercourse with his wife, and she gave birth to a son whom she called, and here's the good one, Seth. Seth. God has granted me another offspring in place of Abel. And that's what Seth means, in place of. So he's going to be the one, because Abel's the one that should have been the good one. He was the good second son, but he got wiped out. So the next good son is going to take his place. And she said, to take the place of Abel, she said, because Cain killed him. So all of the descendants from Adam are going to have to come through Seth. All of the good ones, the ones that's going to be in the kingdom. Because Abel would have been, but he's dead. Cain, he's not going to be the descendant of the good people. So his descendants are going to be tough. They're going to have a tough life, just like Lamech. He's killed a couple of guys, and he thinks he's going to have 70 times 7 the punishment that Abel had. To Seth, in turn, a son was born, and he named him Enosh. And right here is an important part. At that time, people began to invoke the Lord by name. Evidently, before this, they weren't calling on God. But here, Seth is going to be with his son Enosh, and they're going to invoke the Lord by name. They're going to be calling on God. I hope you enjoyed that today. And remember this, if this is a little late to tell you this, but if you want to really stay in tune with what's going on, go to the first one, the very first one. Half of them are in English and half are in Spanish, because if whatever I do in English, I do also for our Spanish brothers and sisters. But go to the first one and read it, and you'll see how it builds. And remember this, you're learning how to read a Bible in a way that so many people don't. They're still trying to make 2 equal 14. And they won't do it. They're still trying to make Adam the first man. But we had men and women in the first one, in chapter 1. So you're going to have an advantage. The advantage they have over you is, if you're Catholic, probably you hadn't read this Bible very much. But if you stay with this, you're going to learn how to read the Bible. Don't forget to leave a comment, if you will, and tell me what you think, whether you agree or whether you don't agree. But I want you to have a beautiful week, and I'll see you again next week when we'll have video number 9. And it's going to be a good one. We are finishing up with Adam. This is the last of Adam's family. The Adams family, that's on TV too. This is the last of their family. And the next one is going to be, in 6, 7, and 8, we're going to be we've already had the floods. So we've got that. So it ends here with 4. This is going to start with 6. And there's going to be a guy called a redactor that's going to show you how he's going to get from this story of Adam and Eve to Noah. And then when we have Noah's life, then he's got another one, how to get from Noah to Abraham. He's called the redactor or the editor. He just had short stories to start with, and he's putting them together so that it looks like it's going to be one story. Have a wonderful day. God bless you.